Assalamu alaikum, this is Sir Salman Akhtar. Today I am going to discuss a very important topic from macroeconomics, that is international trade. Dear students, do remember that the theory of international trade rely on factor endowment. Before understanding absolute and comparative advantages, we must understand what actually is factor endowment. Basically, we know that there are some third world countries. For example, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. These countries are agrarian economies. What does it mean? Agrarian economies mean these countries are specialist or better to produce primary sector goods as compared to other countries. However, we know China, Korea, Japan, these countries are better to produce technological goods or manufacturing goods. They are better at secondary sector. Whereas there are some countries, they are specialized in services, that is tertiary sector. For example, United States, UK, Norway. So it means as humans have different skills, countries do have different set of resources which helps them to specialize accordingly. If China or Japan wants to be specialized in primary sector like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, their opportunity cost would be very high as their factor endowment or the nature of resources they have does not support to produce primary sector. This is factor endowment. Am I clear? Let's start the theory of international trade, which is based on absolute advantage. What is absolute advantage? The theory of absolute advantage is introduced by Sir Adam Smith, who was known as father of economics in 1760s. Adam Smith suggested that a country should specialize in those goods and services in which it has cost advantage, in which they are efficient to produce, because due to the efficiency or cost advantage they produce the output which would be greater than other countries. So according to the absolute advantage theory, Adam Smith suggested specialize on the basis of cost advantage, that is by using same set or quantity of resources, country X is producing more units of a same good as compared to country Y. For example, if I am producing one table and sacrificing 10 chairs, and the other country is producing the same table and having an opportunity cost of more chairs, it is opportunity cost ratio. It does not include an absolute advantage. Absolute advantage has nothing to do with opportunity cost ratios. Just keep it in your mind. Absolute advantage is basically cost advantage. It has nothing to do with the calculation of ratios on the basis of opportunity cost. I think I am clear enough. Let's move on. According to Adam Smith, countries should focus on producing those goods only in which they have cost advantage. It means cost of production, not opportunity cost. Trade relied on absolute advantage is not mutually beneficial, as one country has a monopoly power over other, which means there is not mutual benefit in international trade if it is relying on absolute advantage. The opportunity cost of trade in absolute advantage is very high, as a country does not consider the next best alternative foregone. For example, Iran and Saudi. These two countries are enriched in natural resources, that is oil. They are focusing to produce oil and they are not considering what they have foregone in specializing in on the basis of absolute advantage in producing oil. So Iran and Saudi, they are enriched, they are specialists, they have absolute advantage in producing oil, but they have a big flaw, they have a big lacking. These countries are not as such developed as it must be. Why? Because they are not considering the opportunity cost of focusing or specializing on the basis of cost advantage, that is only focusing on the production of oil and its byproducts. I hope the basic concepts of absolute advantage is clear enough. Now students, we can look at the calculation of absolute advantage. According to this table, before specialization, Pakistan was producing 100 units of rice and 25 units of cars. With the same set of resources, China is producing 50 units of rice and 150 units of cars. So we can easily identify by looking at the output or quantity or units produced by these two countries that Pakistan is good or best at producing rice and China is good at producing cars. So we can say that Pakistan has an absolute advantage in producing rice and China has an absolute advantage over Pakistan in producing cars. Now we know that which country has an absolute advantage in which good. Now we will, according to the theory of absolute advantage, Adam Smith suggested countries should focus on the goods in which they have cost advantage. So according to the table, now Pakistan has become a specialist in only rice and it has reduced or nullified the output of cars. Now the Pakistan's total focus is in producing rice. So if the resources are no more producing cars, it means the resources will be double and output will be doubled. Whereas now China will not focus on producing rice and all the resources will be shifted to produce cars. However, the output of cars has also doubled, which shows that specialization is giving the benefits to both of the countries, as the world now will gain more units of rice and more units of cars. That's how we can analyze absolute advantage. However, with the help of trading possibility curve, if you remember production possibility curve, if we use these curves in international trade, we can say that these are trading possibility curves. So now look at, according to this trading possibility curve, we can easily identify rice on y-axis, cars at x-axis. This line is Pakistan's output possibilities and this line is China output possibility. We can see that Pakistan has an absolute advantage over China in rice and China has an absolute advantage in cars. I think this is clear enough, and this is all about the absolute advantage.